Hello, hello, and welcome to Zebra BI's webinar number 49. Here's a fun fact about this number that my coworker Tilan shared with me. So number 49 is the atomic number of iridium, a rare metal named after the indigo blue line in its spectrum. Now, what does this have to do with financial reporting, you say? Just like iridium reveals hidden information through spectral lines, great financial reports uncover hidden insights buried in raw numbers, like revenue drivers, margin leaks, or cost-saving opportunities. Now, in our space, future of finance is discussed daily. While many have different ideas and approaches, they all have one thing in common. Do more with less. Increase productivity and show finance as a strategic company asset. And this is also supported if you Google the term future of finance. Sources well known to the finance world pop up: Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, BCG, McKinsey, and so on. The product of finance is a financial report. That is how we communicate finance on daily, weekly, monthly, and even yearly basis. But have you thought about if your financial reports are adding value to your business, or are they just repetitive manual tasks read and understood by only a few on some periodic occasion? Now, financial reports should be a strategic and value-adding asset to your business, not a repetitive manual task understood only by a few finance professionals. Now, the future of financial reporting is rooted in automation, real-time insights, standardization, governance, and democratization. And those are the three principles that should guide you. The first one, which is to govern and secure data for auditability and trust. Data must be stored securely to ensure traceability, compliance, and audit readiness. Strong data governance builds organizational trust in reports. Now, the second one is obviously to automate and standardize efficiency for accuracy and efficiency. Automation reduces manual workload, minimizes human error, and enables real-time data in financial reporting. Standardized processes ensure consistency, save time, and allow for faster reporting cycles, both with exploratory and explanatory reports. Now, the third one is we need to make report actionable with better communication and accessibility. So business communication best practices using variances, commentary, IBCS standards improve readability and usability of reports. And time saved on both creating those reports and interpreting results can be redirected toward more impactful work, like scenario planning, strategic decision-making, and aligning teams around priorities. Improved accessibility enables more stakeholders to understand and act on financial data. And the numbers that you see on the screen actually benefit you, and the benefits you see are far from insignificant. Now, before we go in any further, let me introduce myself. I'm Mark Leskoshek. I'm a senior BI consultant at Zebra BI with years of experience helping companies turn raw data into clear and actionable Power BI reports. I specialize in practical Power BI best practices and data visualization, IBCS standards, and business intelligence, making complex data easy to understand. Now with me today is Lily. She's also a BI consultant at Zebra BI and one of our support superstars, helping companies overcome even the toughest challenges with their reports. Lily, would you say hi to our audience?
Hello, hi everyone. Nice to meet you all, and I hope you enjoy this session today.
Yes, so thank you, Lily. Yes, she will be taking over the chat section, answering your questions together with our team. So yes, feel free to post them in the chat. Now, before we go into the entire thing, here's the agenda, right? So we'll start with the best practices for financial reports, followed by a live demo of setting up and using a modern financial report. We'll recap the key learnings, and at the end, we'll share our resources and download links, followed by a Q&A session. Now, of course, don't worry. Yes, we will send you the recording to the session. Okay, without further ado, let's take a look at what the current challenge is, right? So how many of you approach preparing financial statements or financial reports? Now, this might be the reports that you typically encounter using widely accepted and used BI tools, and also in Excel spreadsheets. And this is a common problem, right? We see these kinds of reports that are held within Excel sheets and PowerPoint decks and so on. They are not unified. They're not used within a single source of truth. They have to be constantly updated every week, and there's a lot of options for human error, right? We see this kind of reports still being used in public financial statements, in internal financial reporting systems, and so on. So this is something that is still, even into this day, a big challenge, I would say, because out of this kind of reports, there's rarely any additional insight that could be gathered beyond, of course, the finance people and those stakeholders. Now, there's not only that limitation, but of course, how to then scale and interact with this data, how to communicate it effectively within different departments and so on. And there is, of course, an alternative approach today. We do see BI tools integrated and systems adopted, like Power BI, Fabric, Tableau, ClickView, and so on. Now, there are better approaches to this, right? So Power BI will inherently allow you to have this single source of truth, but and the goal is, of course, not to just reproduce the solutions of Excel and these kind of visualizations and reports in Excel and PowerPoint, right? On our last webinar called Beyond Excel, hosted by our founder, Andre, we already established that the use of Power BI handles these previously mentioned challenges, right? Much better. We have a single source of truth. We can interact with the data. We can have real-time analytics, and then, of course, dive deeper and understand the drivers behind all of those numbers. And we don't rely on bad data that can be, of course, represented in different ways if we have like a single source of truth that's governed, and so on. Now, there are some limitations to Power BI when it comes to applying the best practices of financial reports. And we gathered the list, but just to mention a few, like there's a lack of advanced variance analysis inherent, which is like a standard for business reporting, right? There's limited customization for visuals for financials. Of course, there's widely accepted standards on how these financial statements should look like, right? So we should have subtotals below, and we should like have a certain sort order, represent the data in a very, very standardized structure, which everyone can accept is already accepted, right? And then we have inadequate support for visual storytelling and commentary, right? Typically, all of these insights will be supported with commentary, with highlights, with additional emphasis on important information, right? And drawing our bottom line. Now, of course, all of this is also complex in managing financial hierarchies, lack of international business communication standards in terms of like how to actually visualize the insights, and to have this unified approach where you don't get overwhelmed by all of the possibilities that Power BI and those tools offer, right? Because there's more than 300 visuals that you can use in Power BI and different charts and so on. Not all of them will actually serve a purpose. They can even misconstrue the data. Now, there's also no built-in support for dynamic formatting based on data context, like limited visual options for hierarchical data and multi-level subtotals, limited flexibility by adding like additional rows, ratios, and adding quick calculations on the fly. Now, we believe that the solution is using Zebra BI with custom visuals on top of Power BI. And this is something that you can expect, right? And there are, of course, by using these visuals, you get built-in IBCS standards. So what do we mean by that? So all the charts that you use, and this is really important, right, will follow certain visualization standards. And then there's a distinction between when we should use also like a chart or a table or even a card in terms of producing the right results for better understanding of all stakeholders. Also like presenting automatic variances and forecasting scenarios for future cases. Now, here we can see like the typical two cases, right? When we have a time series or trend analysis, any sort of seasonality, we will use a horizontal orientation in all our visualizations. This allows intuitive interpretation from left to right, from oldest to newest, right? Charts are the right option in this regard. Now, we typically use tables in this case when looking up data and on categorical analysis, right? So all sorts of structural breakdowns and of course for data density, the vertical orientation is then really good. Now, for additional like KPI stop level information, we can include visualization, but we can also just leave KPIs as indicators. But we need to, again, first of all, properly scale, but indicate the performance, integrate that automatic variance analysis into the visualizations, and also, of course, add additional insights. And with the power of Power BI on top of that, right, we can then filter down into specific areas of interest. And this is the power, right? And everyone can get access to the right level of detail when it's needed. And then we can take a look also into the future with forecasts, right? Because there are typical financial scenarios, right, where we want to include even our forecasts. And if we have a standard that supports showing this in the right way, which in IBCS is this hatch pattern, we can even indicate our full year performance on top of that. Now, there's also like, this is maybe more of a top level executive summary that a CFO or view that a CFO might look at. But then, of course, we also have the need for like typical financial statements, the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. And again, financial statements also require to follow this structure, right? So we want to have subtotals below, right? So that you can even expand on that. But when you include visualization, you want to even showcase how we get to certain numbers. And this is really important. We have to have proper scale on top of this, right? To be able to showcase how we achieve the revenue, and then we subtract all the different accounts to get to the underlying subtotals like gross profit, operating income, net income, and so on. And we need to be able to present this in high information density, right, in tables, but together with insights, right? Even if we collapse or expand certain rows, we want to present the right amount of insight and details with commentary, but then we can even like integrate hierarchical commentary on top. And all of this can be done with the help of these custom visuals, right? And we can integrate multiple different, let's say, financial statements within the same like dashboard. And this is of course the power of Power BI, right? We don't have a static report. We can integrate dynamic dashboards that allow like going into different views of our data and dynamically showcasing the insights, switching from, let's say, month to date, year to date views on the spot, and so on. Now, the third and final, let's say, benefit of Power BI itself is, of course, that Power BI allows us to build robust reports that can cater to all user groups, And the key benefit is there is a single source of truth, right? And accessible to the right stakeholders. So financial controllers can look into their data at the right level, understand the different markets, the different cost centers, and then of course add those integrated comments into the dashboards themselves. Then again, we can combine this with top level overviews, where of course you want to have more consolidated data, again at different levels, depending on the seniority and the oversight for different markets. So we can swap between different regions, and of course get different information on top, right? When those are selected. And again, for like cost center owners, there's of course different views and so on and so on. Now, before we go further into the demo now and like show how to actually build all of this, I will ask Lily to bring up a poll, as we have a quick question to ask you. How many of you are already familiar with Zebra BI, and how many are hearing about this for the first time? But I'll have to just stop sharing the screen for the brief moment, so let's see the numbers rolling. Okay, yes, so we do have already quite a lot of people that are using it. Yes, I see the polls. So yes, 43%, 40% are already familiar with Zebra BI. Some of them on free trial. We have people on free version. And about like 40%, 35% are just hearing about this for the first time. Okay, yes, so all the newcomers, I'll let the poll run for a few more seconds. Interesting, very interesting. So we have some people on the free version as well. Okay, so I'd say 30, 40%, 50%. No of us, they're on the free version. 37% haven't used it yet. Okay, so no worries, even for the ones that haven't used it yet, right? We will just briefly do an introduction, just who or what we are, what the entire thing is about, and we'll also like show how to basically use this. Now, even if you haven't tried it out, we are running a free trial for 30 days, so you can check it out, and we will also send you all of these templates that are showing you today, so you can freely try it out for the period of the free trial, right? Everything is embedded inside, so you can see the underlying data, how it's structured, and anything. Yes, so Lily, may I grab the screen back? Yes, we see like 36% of
just
people.
Let me stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take the screen again. Let me see. Okay, should be up. Okay, so just a quick few words for those that are joining on this webinar for the first time. So we are Zebra BI. We are a Power BI vendor that builds solutions or custom visuals on top of Power BI and Microsoft Office, so Excel and PowerPoint, to extend for those specific ad hoc use cases, of course, that Excel and PowerPoint still are used. And we also offer a Zebra AI tool to build on top of your financial analysis. And this is really important, of course, also to mention that if we want to be prepared for the AI tools to do this dashboarding and analysis for us as well, it is really important that we have that we follow the steps that I'll be sharing with you right away. But just to quickly like talk about also how and why we are recognized within the community, right? We are trusted by many as we continuously work with leading companies that you can see. Some of them you can see on the screen, and these are coming from all industries. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to our customer stories, where we actually showcase some of the successes these companies have had, and I'll let Lily and our team share the link to the customer stories in the chat. But yeah, as I said, if you want to like check them out, check how they went through the processes of transforming financial reporting, and these are proven companies and strategies that they've used, and you can learn from like maybe the initial challenges, struggles, and how they solved it and how they benefit from it now. But yes, as said, you can also go and try Zebra BI freely on your own data, as that will be, of course, your best bet in like deciding whether this is useful for you or not. Now, without further ado, let's go into the overview how the entire data process or BI process currently looks, and what we'll be exploring today, right? I'll show you these steps, because getting these right will ensure that you have a future-proof BI process for, of course, this changing landscape that we now are all living it, that leverages these advanced BI tools, and of course later on the help of AI tools to give us even more out of our data. Now, so the first step is to get that data, right? And Power BI has a lot of data connectors that we can use. Basically, if you have your data stored in any sort of way, Power BI today can probably connect to it, right? So we'll also share the full list of data connectors that Microsoft, of course, supports. So meaning that if you can get your data into Power BI, you can certainly work with this advanced visualizations. Now, the next step, and this is of course important one, is setting a clean, reusable data model. Like we explained the entire process of this in our webinar number 47, where we of course explained how to easily like follow the best practices to create a star schema data model, how to then create account hierarchies, time intelligence on top of that, and commentary, right? We want to add comments to the semantic models, to the descriptions of our objects and so on, to enable good work and for our data analysts and report builders, but also again for the AI tools that will be leveraging these models, right? The next step is the visualization part, right? So variance analysis, tables, charts, cards, and how to actually create those, right? Basically, with 3 visuals, you can cover all of your business reporting needs, right? Of course, there's some specialized charting options, but that are not meant for business. But in this case, we're talking about business reports, right? And then basically, by 3 visuals, you can cover those business needs. And to learn how to use maybe those of them, you can also go to our Zebra BI Academy, right? We have a full self-service platform on Academy to learn how to visualize properly. And it takes less than a day to complete the entire thing. And it's free, right? So maybe to check that out as well. Again, I'll ask my team to paste the link in the description. And of course, the last part, and this is of course what you then in the end, the result, and this is why we're doing this, is to be able to understand, analyze, share, collaborate on the visuals, and add additional like storytelling elements, additional insights, inputs on the dashboards themselves, right? To bring and have the functionalities that support this collaboration tools, and like even linking data to other workflows and so on. And in some cases, yes, of course, exporting also the data and checking it in other tools, right? Okay, so yes, I think we spent enough time for this, let's say, a bit longer intro, but let's go into the best practices and live and to show you how to basically do this in Power BI. Okay, so I'll open a Power BI report here, and this is what we want to achieve, right? A financial statement in a Power BI report. Now, before we get to that, we of course said that we need to get the data, right? So to bring in the data, to be able to work with it, right? So we have all these objects that allows us to build financial reports such as this. We need to first get that data. And as I said, there's more than 300 connectors in Power BI from all sorts of basic objects, from Microsoft Fabric, from SAP, from different parts, even to basic Excel files and CSVs and so on. But you can get the data into Power BI for sure, right? So that there's to get there, you simply have to just connect it. And of course, there's different ways. We also talked about this in some of the previous webinars. But once you have that data, you will inevitably have to learn at least some basics of data modeling, right? So this is really important for those that will be building those data models. But ideally, we want to and it will look something like this, right? So this is a, let's say, what we want to achieve, a star schema data model. And what do we mean by this? We mean that all our transactional data, all our values, so to speak, right, and lines are stored in a centralized fact table, right? And out of that, the branches or the leaves of the star, right, are dimensional tables by which we filter that data. And again, these can be business units, accounts, the calendar dimension, different scenarios, but ensuring we have a proper star schema data model, right, split into this centralized fact table and dimension tables, is really optimized for Power BI, for performance purposes, and also to be able to properly filter and slice and dice our data. Is just the best practice of doing this. And again, in our webinar 47, we explain basically the full steps on how to actually, even if you have like a central one table data model with everything, how to get to really with little effort into this star schema data model. Now, there's a specific use case in financial reporting, of course, and this is something that we need to get into, right? In the accounts hierarchy, right? So this is something that will have to be built within a Power BI, right? So obviously, or basically you have to prepare the data to have a correct hierarchy and have the correct sorting of those accounts with the correct nodes and so on. And additionally, we of course need the calendar table, right? To have access to time intelligence functions, to be able to look at different time frames and so on. And having this calendar table and properly, of course, connected it to the fact will enable us to then do even like month to date, year to date, and full year sorting, switch, time intelligence, period switches, and on top of that, right, the final, let's say, part that is maybe added to this star schema of the financials and additional dimensions is the commentary, right? We can actually have the comments stored within our data model and managed centrally through a shared drive or even alternative solutions, which I will show you later, which actually stores the comments on the visuals. Now, let me just go back to the report and show you how a financial statement in Power BI natively would look like, right? So if I just add a matrix or table visual, I will see something like this, right? So I'll add my actual values, my plan, I'll break it down by account and account group, okay? This is what I get. I can expand, and yeah, that's it. I can sort by the accounts, but that's pretty much it, right? So no additional information, just numbers. There has to be a lot of like formatting done to even like get anything out of this, right? Now, I will show you a different way of getting this done, and this can be done by using Zebra BI visuals. Now, for those of you who haven't used Zebra BI visuals, these are again custom visuals. You get them if you go into the store under App Source, you write in Zebra, and there you will see the 3 visuals. Once you import them, you will see also that they are Power BI certified. This means that, of course, the data is secure and it works the same way as any other Power BI visual, right? So once you import them, you can use those visuals. So in this case, we will use a Zebra BI table visual. We will again add the same values. So we'll add a value and we'll break it down by account group and account, right? And as you can see, the visual itself will start building visualization on top of it, right? Then if we add a comparison value, which again has a placeholder for it to follow the standards in terms of formatting, like the notation here, and also for the variances, we now get the variance built in. And now it takes only one field, right, to actually, I mean, you can manually invert and actually build the P&L statement, right? And this is Zebra BI specific. So you can build a P&L statement like manually, or you can even drag and drop a category class to actually build the entire thing for all 3 financial statements, for balance sheets, for cash flows, and for income statements. So we are subtracting the costs, we're building the gross profit, and we now can do all of these things, right? The analysis, right? We have the full results and so on. And on top of that, we can then add commentary, right? So if we have comments linked to our data, we can add the comments and they will be placed at the data points, right? With markers that actually showcase the comments that are manually entered, of course, by your users. Now, this means, right, where I change like the dimension, I also change the comments, right? Because this is all dynamic. It's built into the visuals. So if there's no comments in that particular time frame, right, I will not get commentary if there's no comments for that particular account. Again, it's all dynamic. It's built in additional insights that the users can bring that is not featured in your data, right? And this is important because we want to have storytelling, right? We can even add additional lines. So you can right click on a particular line and just build your custom formula on top of it, right? So I can build gross margin in percentage and divide it by revenue, format it as percent, make it italic, and have it displayed as such, right? It's now built into the visual. Now, the commentary that we added here and additional things, these are Zebra BI specific, and right, you can even like show resize the commentary. You can play around with the column structures and how you want to show certain elements. You can switch the views dynamically, and on top of that, you can add this additional breakdowns, right? And from this specific view, like this one, you can go into like a month-to-date, year-to-date, full-year comparison view, right? And all we needed to do from that basic breakdown, where we have like a comparison measure and so on, you can drop a dimension for period calculation to split this by different groups. And all of these are correctly scaled between each other, right? Now, the benefit here is that you can actually hide certain elements, right? So for the full year where we don't have yet the data present, we simply can hide the comparison between actuals and forecast, or bring it, of course, back, right? So in this case, we can simply hide the actual to forecast comparisons from full year, and we switch to the forecast to plan comparisons for the remainder of the season. And this is a standard financial use case, right? We want to see our forecast for the remainder of the year, but it's simply not native in Power BI to be able to showcase just that particular amount of data. And it's just the level of detail that you want to see. And of course, you can change between different views, maybe more numbers, but then you can customize each and every one, right? So this is all customizable to have two separate views for each for different use cases. And then again, you can use these group placeholders for the standard fields like quarterly and monthly breakdowns, right? Again, showing analysis at the right level of detail. You can also use this for business units views, right? So again, any dimension that you use, you can use this. And with tables, of course, we have a high information density. So when we're looking at relative variance charts, we might want to switch from a chart type or a table to something that still highlights where the changes are, where your action is needed, right? So this is something that you can also do. Now, as I said, there are specific use cases where these income statements have to, of course, use tables, like in these cases, but there's also a use case for charts. So in that case, we want to use charts for time trend analysis, right? And this can easily be done by, again, using the Zebra BI chart. And there you have several chart options available to you. But again, it's all focused on variance analysis, and it will be built into the visualizations that you use. Now, when you want to present trends, you simply drag and drop the account groups or any other dimension into the group placeholder, and we now have the overview of all of the accounts, right? The group trends, and if you want to understand the variances closely, you can just break the y-axis, even change between absolute and relative variance, and this is all dynamic, all at the fingertips, that and standard information that you want to include in your financial reporting, right? Now, on top of that, right, you want to, as I said, present trends and forecasted information for the remainder of the year. And if we have data up to a certain point, right, for instance, actuals up to September, but then as we don't have our actual data yet for October, the Zebra BI visuals will automatically switch between a plan to forecast comparison for the remainder of the year. And again, this can be used for all charts to see or even forecasted trends and analysis in long term, right? And we can reuse the objects that we have, right? So the month-to-date and year-to-date period switch that we use for the grouping to even slice and dice the data in different views. Now, I mentioned that the data analysts and financial analysts role has also changed, right? And it's not just that you're presenting flat numbers each month, but you want to also add insights, storytelling elements, and compound annual growth rates that you want to build on the fly, right? So in this case, we can use something called the annotation layer, and this can be used to bring in compound annual growth lines, right? You just go to this add annotation section, right? And you add those compound annual growth rates for all the business units simultaneously, right? So you can see and communicate the trends and changes of the trends and how they correspond then maybe between a revenue to gross profit, right? We see, okay, we have an increase in revenue also in this comp business unit, but there's a decrease in gross profits, and how does it correspond to our operating income in the end, and so on, right? So do we see like a steady improvement over time on all of our different, let's say, business units, markets, and so on? So these are additional insights that are at your fingertips with advanced visualizations. And of course, we want to, of course, have like certain ability to add and store the commentary on the visual layer itself, right? So that's also a possibility, right? So you can have commentary stored in the backend, but you can also add commentary through this annotation layer, right? So where you can tell the visual under which conditions you want to store this comment, and then this comment will be stored on the visual layer. So for instance, I want to add a comment here on the operating expenses, you simply write it in. Now, this new comment, again, will be stored under these certain conditions for selected filters, and it's another way of building this storytelling features, adding certain information, or you can even like add highlights to certain charts to even draw the attention of your users in the end to this particular charts. Now, in finance, of course, you want to be able to build those waterfalls, right? Like how to actually showcase how you achieved certain results. And again, for this, we can use the Zebra BI charts. You simply drop the values into the placeholder by different accounts, right? And then those can be, of course, sorted manually on the cash flow statement, right? Once you actually have them in, right, you can basically invert and assign certain values to achieve the right waterfall in this case. And in this case, you can basically indicate a result for, let's say, cash of beginning of the period and cash of ending of the period, just as a click, right? So you can even break the y-axis, but there's also one thing that's maybe even better in this case, if we want to showcase charts or we want to enable better readability on structural breakdowns, right? We're not dealing with time trends. We can use a vertical axis like this, right? So it's really easy to build all those objects for financial statements. So these are the visualization parts, the storytelling, collaboration parts that you can add on top of all of your visualizations within the Zebra BI visuals to build a robust cash flow statement, balance sheet, and income statement, and then break it down for the right level of detail on different summaries. So maybe to go back to our presentation, to sum up what we took a look at, right? So we got the data from a different data source. We structure it as a star schema data model, build the right account hierarchies, build the visualization with the right type of visualizations for KPIs with cards, for tables, for structural breakdowns, we can use tables, and for time trends analysis, we can use various chart types. But again, we are just reusing the objects. We are not thinking about the design because all of these best practices of visual storytelling and visual design are already incorporated into the visualizations. And in the end, we are adding storytelling elements like annotations, formulas, Kager arrows, like allowing interaction for the end users and getting the right level of detail for each of those users at the end. Now, I would like to leave you with a playbook to future-proof your finance reporting, which is basically this, right? So to recap those steps, to establish one source of truth, to automate and set up a scalable data model, to visualize and give meaning to your data, right? Through the use of RISE visualizations with insights, not just basic numbers, to explore and explain by interacting and collaborating on the reports through the use of storytelling elements. And this basically allows you to make data-driven decisions and build the models and the structures, BI reporting structures, for analysis of advanced tools like AI analytics and so on. Now, modern financial reporting is not just about recording that history, it's about enabling better decisions, faster actions, and broader business impact. Now, with automation, better communication, and strong data governance, financial reports evolve into a true strategic asset. Now, with that, I'd like to invite you to start to put into practice what you've learned today. And you can start by scanning the QR code, which will take you to a page to apply for a 30-day free trial for ZebraBI custom visuals for Power BI. So you can try it out at your own pace. Now let's take some questions.
Sorry, I was so busy. So many questions actually coming in. I don't even know which ones to share with you, but okay, let me just see. Maybe this one for starters. I guess I don't need to read it out to you.
How easy it is to set a complex visual like an income statement with hierarchy using ZebraBI. So I believe we showed this, right? So one way, again, so first of all, you'll have to create your correct mapping, right? And then once you have the mapping of your like report type, account group, accounts and different account levels down to like even to the GL level, you then can add a sorting column, right? So you easily add a sorting column by which you want to sort, and then this is like typical Power BI structure. So you select that account, you sort by that particular sorting group ID in this case. And this way, we ensure that the hierarchy is in the correct sorting order, right? And then when you drop this information into Zebra BI, right, you simply link that. So yeah, one thing that's important here is, of course, you need to link then the account ID to the fact statement to be able to like use that dimension, right? So we are hiding the entire thing. So the financial fact statement, we're hiding this, and we're actually using the account dimensions in here to be able to get the correct, filter the correct values, right? So in this case, if I just drop in the value, right, I'll get the values for the account group, account. And then if I want to build the hierarchy, I simply just drop it below one another. You can even create a hierarchy, like a set hierarchy. So here, if you right click, you can actually create a hierarchy on the fly. And now I've built an account group hierarchy, and I can add like each field to that particular hierarchy so that I have like a multi-level hierarchy. Now, one thing that people here overdo it is they then present like an 11 level or even more 10 level deep hierarchy. Now, ideally for visualization purposes, we want to keep it up to like 3-4 levels. Of course, you can create like limitless hierarchies, but to get to the right level of details is best to present the right level in like 1 to 2 expandable levels. And then if you need like detailed reports or like drill downs, it's better to have a separate dedicated or drill through page for those like lower level accounts and so on. Hopefully this answers the question. Maybe to the next one.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Mark, for demonstrating this. I already pasted the income statement template also into the chat. So because people are very much interested in that. The second thing that they are very interested in seeing, let me just share this with you. To explain how to enter the comments, so from the annotation layer, and also how the comments are structured when they are done from the data model.
Okay, so yeah, that's actually a very good question. So so in order for the annotation layer to like store the comment at the right level, you basically drag and drop the fields into that particular so for the filters placeholder, right? So if I want the comments to be stored for the selected year, selected month, and the selected period, I can drag and drop those fields, right? So I drag and drop, but not the count. You can drag like the month, the period calculation, and in this case, for the selected maybe year, you can create like a simple DEX statement that will return the exact calendar year chosen, right? And you can reuse this selected filter, but not in the category class, sorry, here in this filters placeholder. And now this tells the visuals under which conditions the annotation gets stored, right? So when I store the condition, right? So when I add the comment now, it gets stored for the selected year, for the selected month, and that particular period, right? So I will not see that comment under the month-to-date or year-to-date, the year-to-date conditions, but under the month-to-date, I will see them because I have stored it under that condition. Now, this is a way for people that have edit rights to easily store the comments on the report. Now there's a way to actually do it on the model, and this is of course ensures that you have like that you can even connect to the data and so on, and then check the commentary on top of this. And we actually have a dedicated webinar on how to structure both this commentary table, but also to enable the right level of users to then input the comments through the use of a Power App. Now, again, the structure of the commentary table is pretty basic, right? So you want to have the dimensions by which you want to comment. So in this case, a time frame is needed, the account is needed, and the right level of detail for the account group, and then the comment stored at that level, right? So we have comments for for each level of the hierarchy, depending on the choice, but that's the storage of the table, right? So you can have like comments that are flat, right, for flat tables or for charts and so on. But if you have like a hierarchical table, you want to have comments for each individual level for the right level of detail, also in terms of who has access to it and so on, to the commentary. And yeah, we have a full webinar dedicated to it. Okay, maybe another question.
Yeah, sure. Referring to this, just a sec. Let me just share it with you. Okay.
If there are different groups of users, could the commentaries be shown only to some group of users? Yes, correct. That is so the underlying commentary will be shown only to the users who have access to it. And yes, you can set this up in Power BI.
Okay, simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just stop here with this, and maybe we can take this one as well. As you explained already through the webinar, that it's nothing specific data set, nothing specific regarding the data set. So it's pretty much, as you've shown, the simple star schema does it all, and it works with all our visuals.
Yes. Yes, and
like
again, I urge anyone who's like interested into how to actually build those data models and so on. We have so the webinar 47 actually shows step by step how to actually build this proper star schema for reports, which is considered best practice for basically anything you do within Power BI. How to like structure this, how to build all of these objects. And once you have this done, it's really much easier to work with all of it, and just all of this gets simplified, right? So why we are doing this, right? In this case, we only need like a simple one DAX line to get to the values, right? We don't have to do gymnastics through DAX just in order to get to the right level of detail for each of the lines, right? So this is of course the reason. And then we can, like for previous periods, we can just call like a simple function like date add to subtract the values one year before and so on. We can then leverage all of this like period calculations and month to date and things. And this is also why a calendar table is important, right? To have a calendar table, ideally you want to do it in the backend, right, on our Power Query or even on the model, but then to have a single DAX table or calendar table, mark it as a date table. So if you right click on this, you can mark it as a date table. And this is also one of the best practices, first best practices, to go into the file and under options and settings, turn off the auto date time intelligence, right? So this is turned on by default, and it will generate a hidden date table behind each date field that you have in your data model. And in some models, this can like bloat the entire thing and completely make it even unusable for users. So this is like the first thing I would do when you import or connect to your data, to remove this, create a proper calendar table. We again have an article how to do it. It's really simple, and then work with that calendar dimension for all of your time intelligence. Okay, I think we've gathered some of the questions. I'll also paste a link to or share the resources. We'll follow up with the recording of this webinar. As said, we have a full Zero BI Academy to show you like different examples, not only for financials, but also like for sales, inventory analysis, cost management reporting, even HR reports and so on, that you can check in the templates. But yes, go to the resources, try it out on your own data, and hopefully you will have a much better and more robust financial reporting system. Yes, with that, I would conclude this session.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.